Hello everyone. We will resume the class from where we dropped out yesterday. Okay. So we were talking about the methods of offering. We had already covered IPOs. That is the initial public offering. That is for the first time when a company offers the securities to the public at large. And in case if a company likes to again gather some raise some funds or some capitals, then it can go back to the market again, and that is called as seasoned equity offering. Okay, that is the second time if a company likes to raise the capital. And then see, equity capital company offers when the purpose is of growth. Okay, when a company is looking for growth prospects, then it offers the IPO. And company can also make the bond offering in case it wants to focus, or the purpose of the company is to increase the stable cash flows, right? Then other than that, there are some other miscellaneous methods which can be used by the company. First one is rights issue. Rights issue involves that when a company is selling the securities in the primary market to the existing shareholders. If you remember in yesterday's class, we had covered preemptive, offering. In preemptive offering, what was there? To the existing shareholders on a pro rata basis, it is given. First, the offer is given to the existing shareholders on the basis of it is proportional to the number of shares or the proportion of shares which they are holding already. Okay, so just like preemptive, that right issue is on the basis of pro rata basis when the issues are with securities are offered to the existing shareholders. It is a very good way to, if a company is interested in increasing or raising the additional equity capital, then it is the discretionary of the shareholder whether shareholders want to forfeit this right partially or fully. Fully they want to utilize it, or only partially they are interested in buying only some of the shareholders, or full they want to buy all the shares which have been offered to them, or they might reject also. So that is all totally on the discretion of the shareholders. After that, we talk about the private placements. Now, private placement is something we get to hear every now and then. So let's understand, what do we mean by this private placement? This term private placement means when the securities are offered to a selected group of persons. Okay, in this what happens? A company doesn't offer the securities to the public at large. It is offered only to the selected persons. Selected persons can be your institutions also, and it can be your individuals also. Institutions, it can be offered to your mutual fund companies also, your insurance companies also. Okay, which falls for so that's why they have taken two types. First is preferential allotment, where it is given to the selected group of individuals, persons, and the second one is qualified in institutional placement, in which there are qualified institutional buyers. So those are your companies. See what happens in public offering when we are making, just in case of IPOs and all, advertisement is done, okay, in media, be it in newspaper or TV, wherever possible. But in case of private placement, there are no no advertisement is taken out to the public, because this placement is not meant for the public at large. It is meant for those some limited number of persons or institutional buyers, right? So it is governed by the Companies Act 2013 under section 42. It is very important. Then you'll ask me ki whether, like, is there any limit on number of persons to whom it can be offered? Yes, actually in the beginning this number was limited to 49, but with the changes in Companies Act 2013, this limit has been increased to 200 in one financial year. Okay, so that means 200 can be issued in one financial year. The number can be 200, but this 200 is applicable only for individuals. It doesn't involve your qualified institutional buyers. And secondly, if you are offering it to the employees of your organization under ESOP, then also that is also not counted. So that 200 is totally excluding your QIBs, that is your qualified institutional buyers, and your employees under ESOP, right? So then your limit can be 200. This reminds me of there was a very good case study of Sahara with respect to private placement. The Sahara Indian Housing Corporation, it was one of the unlisted company under Sahara Group. What had happened? They had done private placement, but they raised the capital of 2 crores. 200 crores. Okay, they offered it to 2 crore people or something. So then there was a issue. It came under the scrutiny of the company's affairs, and they asked that there has been violation of the rule of private placement, that it cannot be offered to more than 49 people. 50, that time limit was not even 200, that time limit was 49 people. So they had violated the rule. Although company said, then it was found that it should be falling under the norms of SEBI, because it has become a public offering. If you are offering to 2 crore people, then it has become a public offering. But they said no, it tried to defend, Sara tried to defend in many ways, that first of all it is our unlisted company, so how it can fall under the umbrella of SEBI? It doesn't fall there. Secondly, it was a private placement. Then they said ki it was not meant for public, it was just for private. So they tried to defend, but ultimately, eventually it was found that it was the violation of SEBI rule, and for that they were, penalized. So that is a very famous case of Sahara in respect to private placements, if we talk about. And yeah, they had offered, optionally fully convertible debentures through private placement. It is totally on you. You can raise the capital through private placement either in the form of equity or in the form of debentures. In any form you can raise, right? So they had opted for optionally fully convertible debentures. So that's why they said ki no, we have opted for this, so how it can be under public offering? But it was found that it was a violation of SEBI rule, and then they were penalized, right? So that's your private placement. Okay, so private placement is different than your public offering. Then further, here is the table which will help you in having a overlook of the comparison of various methods which we had talked about. Whether you should go for public issue, right issue, private placement, or preferential allotment. On the basis of these points, you can decide that how much amount is to be raised, what is the cost, which one is considered costliest method, which one is considered cheaper method, then how it will affect the dilution of control, how the degree of underpricing will be taken into consideration in different methods of offerings, and how the market will be behaving in this way, right? Market image and market perception. Getting my point? So on the basis of that, you can decide which method suits you the best and which method you should opt. Then other than this, there are also term loans. Term loans can be raised, term loans can be used to raise the capital. So what happens in term loans? Term loans are generally which are to be paid back within 10 years, right? So we take for a term of 10 years. कंपनी ने वो टर्म लोन लिया है, वेदर इट इज ICICI से लिया है, IDBI से लिया है, किसी से भी ले सकते हो आप. So what are the things which are the terms which form the part of term loan? Is first currency. Currency means that term loan में जो आपको capital दी जाती है, it can be in your domestic currency also and it can be in foreign currency also. Then security, generally these are secured borrowings, so they ask for a collateral security when they are issuing you a term loan. Then there are interest payments and principal payments. That is a fixed definite obligation that falls on the head of the company, that they are supposed to pay it irrespective of any situation which is occurring in the firm. They are not interested and there is no leniency given to the company. Even if company is not making profit, this obligation will stand as it is there. on their heads. Then there are some restrictive covenants. Covenants in the sense there are some conditions. Okay, some conditions and terms are put on them कि आपने एक टर्म लोन ले लिया है तो उसके बाद until unless you pay it back fully or at least 60% 70% is paid back, आप दूसरे लोन के लिए अप्लाई नहीं कर सकते हो. Like this, there are many and number of conditions which are put when you are going for term loans. Other than that, we get to see the working capital advances. Actually, working capital advances is one of the most important advance which every organization requires, because working capital is the blood of the organization. For the swift and smooth running of any organization, working capital is must. And the more working capital an organization has in advance, the more smooth it can function, right? So there can be some types of working capital advances. First is cash credits. This is also known as CC limits. This is a predetermined limit, that is like when you borrow from a company. What happens in this कि आपने suppose CC आपकी पास हो गई है for 20 lakhs. After those 20 lakhs, not necessary that you'll use the full 20 lakhs. As and when required, आपने कभी 5 lakhs use कर लिए उसमें से, कभी 7 कर लिए, कभी 8 कर लिए, and you are supposed to pay the interest on the running balance. Okay, not on the full amount. कि 20 lakh पे आपने गया, if you have taken the if you use the 8 lakhs, so that short amount of 8 lakhs which have been used, on that you will be paying the interest to the bank. Okay, then there are some loans. Loans are just like any other loan, in that you pay the interest on the full amount. Then there is purchase or discount of bills. What happens in purchase or discount of bills? I'm a seller and you are a buyer. So suppose you are buying it from me. After that, on acceptance, I'll give you a bill. So purchaser gives that bill to the seller, और उसको सेलर जाके बैंक में लेके जाता है, बैंक उसको डिस्काउंट कर देता है. डिस्काउंट का मतलब है कि बैंक रिलीजेस द पेमेंट. सो बैंक इज पेइंग ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ द buyer, right? So it is a bill of discount which will be taken up to the bank, and then the banker will discount the bill and the payment will be made to the seller. So, and then comes the letter of credit. Letter of credit is nothing but it is a kind of guarantee which is given from the bank side. Letter of credit में होता है कि in case a buyer is buying something on credit, not making a immediate payment, तो उसमें वो letter of credit जो है supplier को दे देता है कि this is a kind of, you can say, you know, guarantee from me, or a promise that I'll be paying you in future. In case in future buyer is not able to pay to the supplier, then supplier can go to the bank and bank acts as a guarantor कि yes, he'll pay the things. After that, supplier can go to the bank and ask, see, your buyer had bought and this is the letter of credit, but he didn't make the payment. So it becomes the obligation of the bank कि bank will make the payment on behalf of the buyer, right? So this is all about your methods of offering. After that, we'll talk about the multiple projects and constraints. What do you mean by this? First of all, see, in an organization, we don't deal only with one single project, isn't it? There are n number of projects which are running in the organization, and there are some constraints also. Constraints, there are some limitations in every organization. So if we have to deal with multiple projects and we have to make best of these constraints, then how do we decide the things and what are the problems we face? That we'll talk about the multiple projects. See, when an investment projects are considered, individually any of the discounted cash flow criteria आप use कर सकते हो, NPV को या IRR को, and individual projects के लिए it is very easy. It can be applied for obtaining the correct accept or reject signal. कि whether you have to go for individual project, it is much more easier. But in any existing organization, the capital investment projects cannot be considered individually or in isolation. Because why? Because कोई भी एक project तो एक organization में run नहीं करता है. There are n number of projects, capital investment जिसमें चाहिए होती है, capital expenditure जिसमें चाहिए होता है. So for that purpose, you have to go with you have to find the best combination, which one you should choose and what are the problems you face while choosing it. So the problems like project independence, lack of capital rationing, and project divisibility, these conditions, these are some preconditions which are to be fulfilled or which are to be taken into consideration. Now, when we are talking about the project dependence, what do you mean by project dependence? Project dependence means, suppose there are two projects A and B, and we say these are economically इंडिपेंडेंट. इकोनॉमिकली इंडिपेंडेंट इन द सेंस कि हम प्रोजेक्ट ए को एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं तो उसका प्रोजेक्ट बी के रिजेक्शन पे कोई डिफरेंस नहीं आ रहा है, कोई उसका इम्पैक्ट नहीं आ रहा है, राइट? इट डजंट चेंज एनी काइंड ऑफ कैश फ्लो स्ट्रीम्स ऑन other project. So that is your, those are your independent projects. Then if we say that there is project dependency, suppose two projects are mutually exclusive in the sense that you can accept any one of those. Acceptance of any one of the project out of a set of mutually exclusive project will preclude in the sense कि it will prevent automatically कि आप कोई और प्रोजेक्ट एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर सकते हो. एक बास्केट में there are 3 projects, those are all mutually exclusive projects, and if you are picking up one, it shows up, it automatically precludes other 2 projects, right? कि उसमें से आप एक को ही पिक कर सकते हो. Then second kind of economic dependency can be there, that if a project are not, those may not be mutually exclusive, but they might negatively influence each other cash flows. Suppose आप एक प्रोजेक्ट एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हो तो उससे सेकंड प्रोजेक्ट के कैश फ्लो पे नेगेटिव इंपैक्ट आएगा. फॉर एग्जांपल, if a project for building a toll bridge is there, okay, and उस प्रोजेक्ट से क्या होगा, and the second project is of operating a toll ferry. फेरी क्या होता है? ब्रिज आपका एक कैनाल के ऊपर है फॉर इंस्टेंस, तो वहां पे अभी तक एक फेरी जाती है. फेरी इज योर लोकल boat which takes you from one end to another end. So these are two mutually exclusive or economically dependent projects, you can say. कि अगर आप टोल वहां पे कर दोगे तो फेरी का काम, टोल ब्रिज बन जाएगा तो फेरी का काम उससे नेगेटिवली इम्पैक्ट हो जाएगा. गेटिंग? So this can be the another kind of economic dependency which impacts negatively the cash stream of other project. Then third kind of economic dependency can be a positive. It happens in case of complementary projects. अगर होते हैं कि एक प्रोजेक्ट अगर होगा तो उससे सेकंड प्रोजेक्ट पे भी पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट आएगा. And then in this again it can be divided into two heads, that project A में अगर आप एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हो तो उससे प्रोजेक्ट बी में भी कुछ पॉजिटिव आ रहा है, राइट? दैट इज योर सिमेट्रिकल इकोनॉमिक डिपेंडेंसी. एंड असिमेट्रिकल इकोनॉमिक डिपेंडेंसी इज कि आपके प्रोजेक्ट ए का प्रोजेक्ट बी पे इम्पैक्ट आ रहा है बट प्रोजेक्ट बी का ए पे कोई इम्पैक्ट नहीं आ रहा है. ओके, एंड इन केस ऑफ सिमेट्रिकल दोनों का दोनों पे पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट आ रहा है. सो दिस काइंड ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट डिपेंडेंसी is there which exists and you have to take into consideration while picking up, while going with the multiple projects. The other problem is which we face, that is of capital rationing. I need not to tell you that capital rationing in every organization, there are some internal and external limitations, right? We have very limited capital. It's not that we have abundance of capital. The capital is always limited, so which poses the internal and external constraints. Now your internal capital rationing is caused by a decision taken by a management to set a limit to its capital expenditure outlays. कि इंटरनली आपकी मैनेजमेंट ने एक लिमिट ऑलरेडी सेट कर दी है कि इससे ज्यादा हम कैपिटल आउटले या कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर नहीं कर सकते हैं. एंड योर एक्सटर्नल कैपिटल रेशनिंग कैन अराइज आउट ऑफ inability of a firm to raise sufficient amounts of funds at a given cost of capital. External क्या हो सकता है कि okay, to some limit, to some extent आप बाहर से आपकी रेज कर सकते हो at particular cost of capital, but उससे ज्यादा आप कैपिटल या फंड्स आपके बाहर से रेज नहीं कर पा रहे हो. That can be your another problem, that is your external capital rationing. Then the third point is your project indivisibility. Indivisibility means not every, in fact, most of the projects are indivisible in nature. That means you cannot divide them into parts and you can select one part of the project and leave rest of the part. It doesn't happen this way. So capital projects are considered indivisible. That is, a capital project has to be accepted or rejected in total. In total means fully it has to be either accepted or rejected. You cannot accept a project partially. कि हमने प्रोजेक्ट फुल्ली एक्सेप्ट नहीं किया है, उसका हमने जस्ट 50% या उसको पार्शियली हमने एक्सेप्ट कर लिया है. That doesn't happen, right? So after that, how do we go with this? How do we go with the selecting the multiple projects? There are two methods for that. First one is method of ranking, and the second one is mathematical programming approach. So in method of ranking, what happens? We rank all the projects in a decreasing order according to their individual NPVs, benefit cost ratios और IRR. हर प्रोजेक्ट का हम A, B, C, D, suppose 5 projects are there, A to E. We do the investment outlay ले लेते हैं, उनके expected annual cash flow लेके उनकी projected life ले लेते हैं. उसके बेसिस पे उनका NPV, IRR, BCR कैलकुलेट करते हैं, and then on that basis we rank them. Okay, project B is on number 1 rank, project C is on number 2, project A is on number 3. So we rank them according to that, and then out of that it becomes little easier that we select कि जो top 3 projects हैं, top 2 projects हैं, हमें उन्हीं के ऊपर काम करना है. So rank all the projects in decreasing order according to this in their individual NPVs, BCR, and etc. And then accept projects in that order until the capital budget is exhausted. Suppose आपका capital budget है 5 crores and you have 5 projects in hand. आपने उनकी ranking कर ली है. Project number 1 project जिसकी rank number 1 आई है, that project will involve 2 crores. Next will involve 3 crores. And another one, next will involve 1 crores, another will involve 1.5 crores, like this. Till your 5 crores are, that limit is touched upon, you can accept the 3 projects or 4 projects. And suppose your first 3 projects, top 3 projects, involve a capital of 4.5 crores. उसके बाद आपके पास कितना बच गया? 50 lakhs. उस 50 lakhs में आपका नेक्स्ट प्रोजेक्ट की जो कॉस्ट है, that is coming to 1 crore. So it cannot happen कि आप फोर्थ जो प्रोजेक्ट है उसको पार्शियली एक्सेप्ट कर लोगे, राइट? कि क्योंकि आपके पास 50 lakhs है. नो, you have to either accept it, you have to so उस 50 lakhs के लिए we cannot accept one project in partial. तो हमें वो 50 lakhs अपने सेव करके रखने हैं and we'll pick up only the top 3 projects, right? But there are some problems which we encounter while choosing the ranking method. Ranking method में बहुत सारे conflicts होते हैं. Conflict in the sense it can be on the basis of size disparity, कि we are choosing on the basis of NPV, IRR या फिर उसका capital outlay कम है, but that varies. अगर किसी project का size बहुत बड़ा है, it is a very large scale project, then obviously उसका NPV, IRR, capital outlay, it has to be more, or it has to be different than the small scale project, isn't it? So in the same way, there can be a time disparity also. Time disparity in the sense the mismatch because of the phase on which project is going on, right? And then life disparity, that talks about the project life, total project life. Then project indivisibility, as we discussed it, that if project is not divisible, then it becomes these kind of problems we face while using the ranking method. Then next comes your mathematical programming approach. Mathematical programming approach, you know, it gives you a feasible combination procedure, you can say. So it becomes sometimes when your number of combinations are increasing, you have suppose in an organization 10 or 12 projects, तो उनके अलग अलग combination की इसके साथ ये project 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9 like this. So they will be, you will be left with umpteen number of combinations, those combinations. So it becomes very cumbersome. Then in that case, how do you use the rank method, right? It becomes very tedious and complex. So for those cases, we use mathematical programming approach. So mathematical programming approach, it gives you a planning horizon, जो है, it increases that. Then to go for this, it becomes little, it gives you the optimal solution. It doesn't give you the many feasible combinations. Rather than that, it focuses on the giving you the optimal solution that you should go with. This is the best solution, or this is the most desirable combination of investments which you can choose up without evaluating, and you need not to evaluate all those combinations or feasible combinations which were coming out of your ranking method, right? So it helps you in choosing the best optimal solution, and it works on two things: the objective function and the constraint equation. Mathematical programming approach is based on the objective function and the constraint equation. The objective function represents the goal or the objective of the which the decision maker seeks to achieve, right? Which he desires to achieve. And the constraint equation represents your restrictions which are arising out of your limitation of resources or environmental restrictions or managerial policies. These are some of the restrictions or constraints which we have to observe. So on the basis of your objectives and the constraints with respect to your resources, managerial policies, environmental policies, these constraints, we decide that there are three kinds of mathematical programming approach. Any of these can be used. These are, first is linear programming model, next is integer programming model, and third one is goal programming model. We need not to go through in detail because it is mathematical and it is all formula based. So you just need to know, you just need to be aware that these are three kinds of mathematical programming approach or models which can be used: ranking method, and the second one is mathematical programming approach which can be used for evaluating the multiple projects in with respect to constraints or by keeping constraints in mind into consideration, right? So that's all about today. With this, we finish off our third unit. You can ask your queries if you have.